Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Follow Your Spark podcast. It's your host, Gina here, and I'm coming on for a special solo episode today all about year-end reflection and the power of looking back. This topic today is so important to me because I feel like reflection is a skill that people often skip. So many people are so focused on the future and what's coming and what's ahead and what's that next milestone I'm trying to get to and constantly chasing the next thing versus being able to look back at the past with gratitude. So many people look to the past and think, oh man, I'm not where I wish I was by now. I should have been further ahead. Why did I make that mistake? And they're in this habit of beating themselves up, judging their progress, and wishing their past had been different than it was, and carrying all this regret and shame and insufficiency about where they've come from. And that energy is what fuels them into the future. And they come from a place of pressure and force and chasing something in order to try to make them happy or to feel like they finally arrived. And now, while this energy might work for some, this energy of force and pressure and pushing, it might motivate you to be in action and move forward. It also just doesn't feel good and can make things a lot harder when you're constantly berating yourself and judging yourself. And that's the only motivation for improvement versus when you look to the past from a place of gratitude and a place of learning, you can integrate everything that you've experienced in a much more compassionate, loving, supportive way. You can look to the past and see, okay, what are the biggest lessons I've learned? What worked? What didn't work? What do I really want to celebrate in terms of how I've grown, even if it doesn't feel like this massive monumental leap? Because often growth doesn't. Sometimes growth is imperceptible. Sometimes growth looks different than just continuing to step forward all the time. So when you can look to your past with, like I said, compassion, love, understanding, it's so much easier to distill the gold from that, to alchemize everything that you've experienced and really use that as a rich fertilizer that fuels you moving forward. And that fuel moving forward is now from a place of possibility, from joy, from sufficiency, from worthiness. And that can create so much more momentum and ease than the place of pressure and judgment and shame. So that's why this conversation is so important to me. And like I said, I feel like this is something that people often skip ahead. It's like this time between when one year ends and the next year begins. It's like, how quick are we to just go straight to thinking about the next year's goals versus really taking time to look back and reflect. So that's why I wanted to come on today and share my year-end reflections with you. And I'm going to share the top 10 lessons that I learned this year that I know are going to be beautiful fertilizer for me in the years to come. And I invite you to listen to what I have to share to see if it sparks any insights about your own experiences that you can begin to reflect on and distill that might be your biggest lessons and learnings. And before I jump into everything, I also want to say, if you are craving time and space for yourself, for deep reflection so that you can truly distill all these beautiful insights available to you from 2024, I have an incredible opportunity coming up I want to share with you called Alchemize and Expand. It is a 3-month coaching container where you will learn incredibly valuable skill sets that will fuel you the rest of 2025 and beyond. It's a combination of 3 potent group coaching sessions. In the first session, you'll learn this skill set of reflection and how to do it from a place of gratitude instead of judgment. In the second group coaching session, you'll learn the skill of visioning from a place of possibility and expansion instead of putting limitations and ceilings on yourself. And in the third session, you'll learn this skill set of evaluation and refining so that you can look back on the inspired actions you've taken, see what's worked and what hasn't, and learn how to evolve and refine your plans as you go. In addition to these transformational group coaching sessions, you will also receive 9 one-on-one coaching sessions designed to help you clarify your goals, overcome any challenges you might be facing, and take inspired action with accountability and support. If you're hearing this and your heart is saying, yes, go to ginacasbarro.com/alchemize and expand to join us. There's limited spots for this program left, so if you're feeling that call, I definitely recommend claiming a spot as soon as you feel that spark. If that's you, I can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's jump into my 10 biggest lessons from 2024. Number 1 is to trust in divine timing. This showed up again and again and again throughout the year. One of the biggest examples of this was when I first moved into my house. I just bought this house in November 2023. And when I moved in, I had the intention of renting out 2 rooms of my house, and I wanted to do it as quickly as possible. So as soon as I moved in, before I even really had any furniture, I was putting up flyers around the city. I was putting up ads in Craigslist and Facebook and all of these places with this intention to manifest these 2 incredible roommates. And at the beginning, nothing was happening. I wasn't really getting any responses. If I was, people might express interest and then kind of fade away. And I started panicking. I started thinking, oh my gosh, what if I'll never be able to find roommates? What if this is not going to work out the way that I thought? I had all this worry, this fear, this anxiety. I was trying to think of, what do I need to do? Imagining a million different scenarios. Should I look for traveling nurses? Should I Airbnb? All these things. And finally, when I got quiet and tuned in to my intuition and also tuned in to my house and what my house wanted to share with me, the invitation was to take a deep breath and enjoy this time. To give myself time and space as a new homeowner, as someone who is building this new relationship with my home and the spirit of my home, to enjoy this time alone and to trust that everything will fall into place in divine timing. So I released it. I stopped advertising for roommates. I stopped really asking around. I didn't really do much. And instead, I did a nature mandala ceremony and offering with my house and did a lot of meditations with my house and journaling with my house and slowly got to know my house and enjoy this transition, enjoy this experience as a new homeowner. And I did that for the first 3 months of the year. January, February, and March. And then all of a sudden, I got a couple people reaching out to me again. And by April 1st, 2 incredible humans both moved in at the same time. And it's worked out beautifully. And now, almost a year later, it truly feels like my vision for this house and what I wanted to create and who I wanted to call in as roommates has come to life. In hindsight, I am so glad that they did not come January 1st and that I got those 3 months with the house by myself. So again, that was my first biggest lesson of the year, to trust in divine timing. And even when I might think I want something now, to surrender that. Surrender that date, surrender that timeline, and trust that there might be a timeline that's even better for me that I don't understand now why. The second biggest lesson is that it's possible to actually allow and enjoy all emotions. This is a lesson I feel like I've been learning for a few years now, and this year it really hit home in a new way. So over the past couple years, as I explored more what it meant to really feel my feelings and be with my feelings, at first I thought, oh, the whole point of this, if I learn to feel my feelings, then the feelings that I don't want to feel will go away. That's the point of it. If I feel sadness, it'll go away quicker. If I feel fear, it will go away quicker. Everything I was practicing was around getting back to the good stuff, that there was good emotions and bad emotions. And if I learned to feel my emotions better, then the bad emotions would be less and the good emotions would be more. Versus this year, I feel like I really began to learn in a new way that that's not what this is about. Life is not about feeling more of the good emotions, quote unquote, and less of the bad emotions. It's about embracing everything that it means to be alive as a human. All of the emotions that come with that, all of the experiences that come with that, and not judging any of them as good or bad or right or wrong. This year, there were a lot of opportunities for me to feel really deep emotions on the darkness side of the spectrum. Grief, frustration, anger, confusion, which came from some really big transitions in relationships in my life. A very dear friend passed away from cancer at a very young age in the middle of the year, and that came with this whole spectrum of emotions. There was a romantic relationship that changed seasons and has evolved into something different. There were some health challenges that were really frustrating this year. And all of these experiences, like I said, were a deep invitation to feel feelings. And as I navigated through them, I finally realized I wouldn't give this back. I wouldn't wish that I never experienced this, because those feelings were also connected to depths of love that I felt for those people and learning to listen to my body in a whole new way. They taught me so much. And even though in the moment, navigating those emotions felt difficult, felt challenging at times, I am really learning on a whole new level how to embrace and accept and even enjoy those challenging experiences. Number 3 is surrender doesn't mean what I thought it meant. This year, I learned about what the concept of surrender and offering up circumstances in my life in a whole new way. Kind of similar to the emotions thing. I think I used to believe that surrendering meant, oh, if I surrender this challenge to spirit, then spirit will help me get what I want. So if I'm experiencing a health challenge and it's really hard and I wish it were over and all these things, if I surrender that to spirit, spirit will help me get better immediately. That's what it means to surrender. It means I offer it up and spirit just gives me the answer that I think that I want. And that is not what surrender means. And one of the ways that this insight came is from reading the book, It's Not Your Money by Tasha Silver. And she has a really powerful way that she breaks down this and an explanation of what surrender and offering really means. And what I learned that surrender and offering really means is to surrender your attachment to things going your way. Surrender your attachment to getting better in the timeline that you want to get better. Surrender your attachment to producing the exact circumstances that you think you want in your life. Surrender any attachment to holding on to this desire that you might have with this closed fist and believing what I want is the best way. What I want is the best possible thing that could happen in my life. And if I surrender and offer it up, then the universe will help me get exactly what I want. Again, this is not what life's about. Life is not about getting exactly what you want all the time and having that be the only way that you will be happy if your external circumstances fall into place with what you think is the ideal. Now, one of my favorite practices is I have this God box, it's called. So it's basically a box. You can use a shoebox, you can use whatever you want. And if there's a circumstance in my life that is challenging or that I want guidance on, I write it down on a piece of paper and I offer it up to this God box and ask again, may I be guided to what will serve the highest good? May I be guided to the lessons that would be most meaningful to me to learn right now? May I be open to the breadcrumbs that will serve me most to guide me on my path? May I surrender my own expectations of how I think this should go? And I pray for that guidance to be led in a way that serves my highest good, that serves the collective highest good, and release attachment to thinking it has to go my way. Lesson number 4, shifting gears a little bit. So the 4th lesson I learned is that music, dance, and singing is deep medicine for my soul. So I knew pretty much my whole life that playing music and even dancing were something that I was always called to. I was a drummer growing up. I played drum set when I was young, and then I played taiko drums, these incredible, huge Japanese drums for many years in South Florida. And that always called to me. And again, dance always called to me in different ways over the years. And this year was the first year that I really explored singing by myself and in community. And as soon as I did, like something in my body just went zing. Like, we all used to do this, is what I felt. Like, all of our ancestors used to do this. It just felt so natural and so healing and so nourishing. And I realized that this is something so important to me to prioritize and make space in my life. And I'm so grateful for all the humans that I've crossed paths with that have guided me and supported me this year in those efforts, like Kristen Tedman, who offered a number of different frame drumming and singing experiences this year, and Alessandra Belloni, who is an incredible Italian frame drummer who I got the pleasure of working with in New Jersey. And I know that this is something so important to me to prioritize in the months and years to come. And I'm so excited to continue to see how this evolves and enriches my life. Which leads me to lesson number 5, which is creativity fuels my fire. This year, my theme for 2024 was creative expression. And I really saw my house as this blank canvas that I wanted to experiment and explore and be creative. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the mural that I painted on the wall of my house. I experimented with other random things, like I made a yarn wall hanging. I've been collaging every month. I've been painting. And again, there's something so powerful about making things with my hands and surrounding myself with color and texture. And I find myself so drawn to artists and people who are dedicating a lot of their time and energy to this creative process and seeing what that unlocks in human potential, in joy, in brain capacity. There's something so fascinating to me about that, about creativity. And The Artist Way is a book that has changed my life, and Artist Dates and Morning Pages, if you're familiar with Julia Cameron. So, like I said, this year was another reminder of how important being creative is to me and making things with my hands. And I continue to invite in breadcrumbs of different ways for me to explore that and see if maybe there's going to be one creative avenue or outlet that I do more of. Because I just find it so incredibly life enriching and something I want to devote more time to. Lesson number 6 is my body is my teacher. And when I was writing these lessons down on a piece of paper, when I wrote my body is my teacher, the next thing I wrote was, and my mind can be a prison. And when I wrote that, I thought it was interesting and definitely has felt true in many moments this year. So this past year, I experienced a number of different health challenges. At times, things that were unexplainable and I didn't have answers to immediately and caused a lot of fear. And even though nothing catastrophic happened by any means, I think what was most challenging was the not knowing, was feeling something that felt off in my body and being in that place of uncertainty and then fear spiraling into, oh my God, am I dying? Like, what's happening? And there's something so crazy that I feel like happens in the brain when something is off in the body. And I also feel like as a society, many of us are so used to wanting the solution for that immediately. Again, wanting it to get better. Same with emotions. Labeling that if I feel ill, if something goes wrong in my body, that's bad and it needs to be fixed as soon as possible. And again, what I learned this year was, can I find acceptance for anything I'm experiencing, any emotion, any circumstance, any physical discomfort, and invite in space for curiosity, invite in space for acceptance, and welcome that experience as a teacher that has a gift and a lesson that it wants to share with me. And instead of slamming the door in its face and trying to kick it out of the house as soon as possible, it's about welcoming it in, inviting it to have a cup of tea with me and share what it has to share. And this has not always been easy. It's why I recorded a Tonglen meditation that's also on my YouTube channel that's all about learning to accept and feel your own emotions on behalf of yourself and also on behalf of the collective, because Oftentimes, it can be easier to do things for other people sometimes than for ourselves. So I won't go deep into that meditation. And if you're ever struggling with anything health-wise or emotion-wise that feels like a huge challenge, I definitely recommend checking out that meditation. I will link it in the show notes as well if you want to find it. So yeah, this year, deep lesson, my body is my teacher. And how can I open up space to learn from it instead of shutting it out? 7, the key is to enjoy yourself now. I talk about this all the time as a coach that our external circumstances aren't what makes us happy. So a certain amount of money in the bank, a certain job, some other future goal, that thing is not what's going to make you happy. Happiness is fueled from the inside, and you can fuel happiness in any moment, no matter what's going on. And I had a powerful reminder of this on the winter solstice, actually. I had this potluck that I was hosting at 5 p.m. on the solstice that I was so excited about, and all these ideas and all of these plans. And I woke up in the morning and I had a lot of things to do. I had cleaning to do, I had errands to run, I had other things to do. And on one hand, I was like, man, I wish it was just 5 o'clock already and, my friends were over. And I had this thought of, wait a second, how can I enjoy every single moment of today? Because if I'm just waiting for my friends to come over, then it's going to be over in the blink of an eye. And I'm going to then miss it and look back, and I'm not going to be present no matter what. So I set the intention in the morning to invite in presence at every moment of my day. Invite in gratitude at every moment of my day. So I started that day by going down to Herring Run Park and meditating with the river and leaving an offering and praying to Spirit in honor of the solstice. And I had a beautiful experience out in nature with the sun and the earth and the moon. And then I ran my errands and went to 2 different local shops in my neighborhood and had beautiful conversations with the shop owners and the people who were working there. And it was so fun, and there was so much joy, and there was so much presence in those conversations. And then I came home and I made baked ziti and I vacuumed and I did all these things, and then I took a nap and et cetera, et cetera. The day went on, and then people came over for the solstice, and that was beautiful. And I was able to really look back and think, wow, in every single moment I was able to feel that joy and that presence, and not just be waiting for one big moment, because life is made up of all the moments in between. It's not just the moments where you get a promotion or you get married or something beautiful happens. It's everything leading up to that. And joy is experienced now, not only when we achieve something or get something we want. Lesson number 8, which I feel like summarizes a lot of the things I've said already, is that the challenge is the gold. Like I said, there have been many moments in my life, not only this year, in the past, where I've been working towards something and experienced tension or difficulty or moments of growth in the process of working towards that thing, whatever that milestone is that I'm working towards, whatever that goal is that I'm working towards. And I've had thoughts like, man, I wish I was past this challenge already. I wish I had overcome this difficulty, whatever it is I'm trying to work through personally or professionally. And I'm finally starting to realize, like I said, that the challenge is the gold. The challenge is where strengths are developed. Skills are refined. Medicine is brewed from my own experience, especially as a coach. Everything that I help people with, when I overcome my own challenges, I'm that much more equipped to help them navigate theirs. So if I just had this easy breezy life and I reached all of my personal and professional goals with no challenge and no obstacles, I would not be able to teach and coach from embodied experience. So now when I experience a challenge, I'm like, great, not all the time, but I'm learning to practice this. Great, what can I learn here? What is the medicine that I can brew here? Even if this feels difficult in the moment, what am I grateful for? Why would I not want to wish this challenge away or give it back? Having that perspective and that reframe has been so powerful and made navigating those challenges a lot more easeful and a lot more joyful. Lesson number 9 is clarity will come. This also reminds me of that first lesson in trust in divine timing. So one big thing I was asking for clarity for this year was, do I want to have children or not? And this is a big question that was showing up in relationship in my life. And I've been navigating this question for the past, pretty much my whole life, and like more focused the past 2 years. I've been asking myself this question and really opening up to perspective and breadcrumbs to see if I could answer this for myself. And I felt torn inside. I felt this tension inside. And it was hard for me to really come to a decisive conclusion of, do I want children or do I not? And I think for many reasons, I had been trying to lean into, okay, what would my life be like if I had children? How might that be a future that I desire? And I was playing with that and exploring that and really trying to open up to that possibility. And it wasn't quite fitting. It was like trying to put a puzzle piece in a place where it didn't belong. So finally, I gave myself permission to really explore, what would it feel like if I intentionally chose no as the answer, and really gave myself permission to explore that. Because my whole life I had been living in this like maybe place, in the place of, well, maybe I'll be struck with, the baby bug one day and I'll just wake up and want a baby. I thought that's what happened. Growing up in society, when I was young, it's like, okay, you get married, you have children, you get a job. Like, this is the life that I thought everyone lived. And I just thought one day I would wake up and want kids. And now I'm 37 and that day never came. So finally, I started exploring what it would be like if I didn't. And I read this incredible book called Women Without Kids that I highly recommend for anyone who's thinking about not having kids, or even if you can't have kids. She really paints this whole perspective of all different types of women who don't have children for a variety of reasons, and what life can be like, and different perspectives of how to think about yourself, how to think about your purpose, how to think about your life without children. And reading that book really created a lot of freedom and ease in my life to let go of any frustration or shame or outsiderness that I think I felt, maybe sometimes unconsciously, about this choice to not have children. And that clarity didn't come after a day of thinking about this. It was a journey. And the lesson and the message that I really got looking back on this year was to trust the process and not wish away any part of it, not wish away the part where I'm questioning and there's tension and I'm asking and it's unknown. I feel like, again, as I'm talking through this, a big message that's coming up is like the moments in our life that feel like the biggest mystery, the biggest question, the biggest unknown can feel so uncomfortable. And if we can surrender into that moment and be okay with it and not need it to be different, not need clarity to come before it's ready, not need the answer to come before it's time, not need the next step to come, not need the next level of our career or our anything to come if it's not time yet. And I feel like reminding myself of this is going to be really important, in the days and years to come, because I'm sure there will be many more moments of uncertainty. And I'm sure the brain will pop back up and think, man, I wish I knew it was going to happen. And really, maybe I don't. Can I release that needing to know and enjoy the here and now? Lesson number 10, which was a really important one for me this year, is that shifting from me to we changes everything. So what I mean by this, especially in business, is when I was thinking about just me all the time of, okay, what are my goals? What are my intentions? What do I think should happen? What do I want to create? When it's all about me all the time, that often created suffering. Again, because it was coming from this place of attachment of, these are the milestones I want to reach. These are the numbers and metrics I want to achieve. And it's all about me. And it's all about how I want to feel when I reach these things, versus when I could let go of demanding that those goals and intentions happen exactly as I want them to, on the exact timeline that I want them to happen in, and think about all the things that I'm going to get and I'm going to receive when I create all these things, and shift from we to how can I be of service? How can I contribute in this world? How can I ask spirit and the divine to use me in a way that serves my highest good and be open to that flow, everything changed. So much more ease and spaciousness and abundance and contribution was able to flow from that place because I wasn't attached to it all going my way. So that looked like deeply following intuitive guidance this year and creating different offerings like the Conscious Creation Circle and Awakening Abundance and different events and experiences, and also being fluid with that. Sometimes I changed the duration of programs from a year to 6 months, or started later than I thought, or changed things up when I got that intuitive download that would serve people. And I just kept asking that question: how can I be of service? What would support the highest good? What's the next action that I can take in this process? And how can I trust myself to take that one step at a time without needing to know everything that's going to happen this year and everything that's going to happen the next 10 years of my life? Can I let go of needing to know that plan? And when I gave myself permission to flow in that way and show up in that way, everything changed. And that is the space I want to live in and come from in 2025. So those are my top 10 lessons. And like I said, this podcast was all about reflection and looking back from a place of gratitude, from a place of learning. And I highly recommend you take time to do the same. And this is not something that you can only do or you should only do at the end of a year. You can do weekly reflections, you can do monthly reflections, yearly reflections. They're powerful all the time. And if you want support in creating these habits, creating this space for yourself, join us in Alchemize and Expand. For those who feel called, I cannot wait to be in community with you and hear all about the things that you learned this year and how that is going to be beautiful fertilizer for everything you're creating in the year to come. All right, my friend, I'm wishing you a beautiful holiday season and end to this year, and I'll talk to you soon.